I don't know how you did it, man.
Yeah, I don't know how I did it either. Neither do, but I really sympathize with having a bunch home all day long, having a homeschool or whatever, what parents have to do now.
Yeah, I just think they're going a little crazy. They're not getting their social contact, and you know what I'm saying? It's like I don't know. I think all the kids are going crazy. And I don't want to judge them too much because of the severity of what's going on. Like unprecedented times. But it's like, man, you know what? If I when I was that age, I would have got a good whipping.
Yeah,
It's different times now, and not for my dad, my mom. You know.
yeah, yeah. I would have gotten it from my stepdad, but I know what you mean.
So we chose to have good conversation, and just like any conversation, can't kind of get it all in one shot. So, we had a good family dinner. We talked, and that's it. Tomorrow's the next conversation to be continued.
Okay, that's good. You've got the peace maintained there, an equilibrium in the Aqua Viva household.
I'll tell you, listening to the Office of Shaman and really thinking about how I'm going to talk to my kids is actually, I'm telling you, that's another good thing about what we're doing over here is the logic I'm using now. Like I don't know, I think I took a different approach tonight than I normally would have, and it was an important matter. But I don't know. I didn't let my emotions get to me this time, which is something that we always try not to.
Yeah, it's handy having a different approach. It's I remember like as a kid, like once I grew up on Long Island, and I once navigated. It wasn't a big trip, but it was from the South Shore of Long Island, around where Jones Beach was, where I grew up, to the North Shore to go to another beach. And I think I had just gotten my car license and was going to meet some friends. And, there was no internet back then. This is like early, mid 1970s or late 1970s. So I took like my directions from my friend Larry over the phone. And I remember he was just like, go to the like blinking light, that you'll see after you travel 10 minutes down this road and make a right turn. You remember back then there was no, like if you wanted to get somewhere, you had to plot it out on a map, or you knew it, or
the
you
right
just
direction.
kind of went and winged it, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's funny, like you're saying that, and I remember vividly the same thing. Somebody gives you directions, and if you didn't remember, what I mean, it's not like you could have called them back. You had to figure it out.
Yeah, no, I remember like I took these directions from Larry, and I made a like would have been an hour trip, the longest ride offshore where I lived to the North Shore of Long Island. He was, and the rest of those guys were getting ready to leave the beach by the time I even showed up there at like 2 p.m. with my map.
The good old maps.
Well, that's I think that's a good way to think about what we're talking about tonight in terms of programming. I was I didn't say surprised, but that's probably a good word when I first considered that the way I navigate everything, not just going from the South Shore of Long Island to the North Shore of Long Island, but the way I navigate being a dad, or being a lawyer, or being a law partner, or being a husband, or being a friend, was based on a map of a territory, so to speak. But the territory was really my thinking. And I really want people to consider that the way they get along in things is really based on a map they have. And the map they have is the thoughts they use to perceive the outside world.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of crazy, right? In first blush, because I think most people just their knee-jerk reaction of the way they grew up is that no, Yeah, thanks. I understand that that's how you get along, but not me. Me, what I see actually is what is. And so people think they've got this direct connection between the inside, how they think about things and perceive them, and what's actually going on. And the answer is really flatly, oh, no, you don't. The way you navigate things through your relationships and through your job and through the people you meet is every bit a function of your internal map, which you could think of that in a variety of ways. You can think of your map in terms of the thoughts, or let's call them memories, that you have, because that's really what they are. How else do you navigate the world but through those memories? Or John Lilly and John Worthington and a lot of other people now are beginning to phrase this in terms of programming, neural programs, because that's about as accurate as you can get now, to think about your map of the territory of how you get from where you are to where you want to be is based on that. I mean, every day you wake up, right? Just like me, Ralph, and there's a place, and the day is filled with possibilities or opportunities, and you don't know, it's not like you're going to navigate it. So what are you going to use to navigate your day?
Yeah, your internal roadmap.
Yeah, I think from yesterday's session or the day before, um, we gave you a way to look at like that checkout thing at Restaurant Depot, because that's one way to navigate it, right? I think what can we call that? Like a how dare you kind of thing, or like what was that? Like what kind of, how would you characterize the way you'd looked at it? Like, yeah, this guy's checking me out. Does he not trust me? Or what's this about?
Yeah, I think you took the words right out of my mouth. It's like in my mind, I was thinking, I could have been thinking, are you looking for me to kind of pull rank and power right now? Because I felt like in that situation, as a customer, I had more rank and power than that guy. Even though, I don't think it would have like resolved anything for me. But once upon a time, and again, maybe a little bit of me thought that way too. It's not like I wasn't thinking that. But since this conversations have been fresh in my head, that's where I was like, okay, maybe this guy, let me think about this guy being right. For whatever reason, he wants to check my receipt and break my balls. So I actually, that day, did kind of what John did. I mean? I went out of my way to give him the receipt. And somehow, I think John hit the nail on the head, because this guy felt important that day. And you know what I started thinking is that this guy, he actually wanted to talk to me more. And he probably wants to talk to me each time. That's the reason.
Wow.
That's how he's trying
Wow.
to, you know what I mean?
This is crazy. Got to get the hell out of there and find a new place. You actually have some dude there that actually wants to talk to you and get to know you. I
Yeah.
suggest you change all relationships ASAP. This is not acceptable. That dude can actually have been doing something different maybe than trying to break your balls.
Exactly. But once upon a time, maybe 2 months ago, I would have been, again, just a little upset with this guy. See my fucking receipt. You know what I mean? I would have been like, and I don't go to Restaurant Depot often. It's like now under these times I'm going a lot, so I can see like whatever. But I haven't kind of done this in a couple of years, like whatever. So I can see him trying to like do this to me, like here and there I'll go. But yeah, I could think like that other example of, but instead, this guy, he wants to connect. You know what I mean? That's what ultimately I got. And I didn't have the time to connect with him that day. But that's my point with this. There's power in this kind of thinking, because the next time I'm going to make time for him, because he's an important guy there and he's an important tool to what I need to, make happen there. So if I connect with him and help him figure out some stuff, if at the very least we connect with communication, like proper communication, then form a stronger bond and like whatever.
Yeah, it changes things for you and for him and for the very reality that you live in. I mean, and that's really that's really what's going on. I used to find roadblocks in everything. but my roadblocks were really perceived threats, right? And that's probably something in the nature of the flavor of what was going on for you. Well, how dare you? I'm in a rush. I'm Ralph Acquaviva. You got, what the hell are you checking me out here? What's this about? Do you have your hands? And I've been there. I know how it's like to have every single question ruminate in my mind as if there's some challenge going on in the outside. That that was an internal map. That was the way I navigated through relationships. What's their angle here? What are they really trying to do? Or why don't
Yeah.
So having the ability to
But there's some of that too. There's some of that too, no, Ken? I mean, it's like some people have ulterior motive. You know what I mean? Their ulterior motive may not be good. It just that's their character, I guess.
Yeah, but what's their ulterior motive? Like, what's ulterior about it? I mean, like if you think of a program, right? So a program becomes the rule of our life until recognized and changed. So, you can pretty much be assured that they're doing their thing and navigating the world. So their motives, whatever they are, or how they see the world, are, a reflection of their own programming.
Right.
Here, we have that John Lilly quote up on the screen. Programs. Once a program is written, it becomes the rule of our life until recognized and changed. You could say it once the program is written, that's your map. You're going to go down that road. Have fun. If the bridge is out every time and you keep falling off, if every time you go down that road, you get into fights with your significant other because you don't trust him or you don't trust her or you think they don't trust you or whatever you have it, that's the map. Programming is a tool. And in the book, The Office of Shaman, it's the first tool. You can think, it's pretty essential. Before what we'll do next week, I think what we'll get into, or in some subsequent classes, are tools about what you could loosely call changing points of view. It's actually more more inclusive or bigger thought than just changing points of view. But loosely, let's call it changing points of view as a later tool. How are you going to do that? How are you going to get along with people, find a place to get along with them if you don't first start with programming? That's why we start with the tool of programming.
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like if you can get in rhythm with it, I because again for me there's a spark, and I know where there's a spark there's fire. But
yep.
also when I first heard you, it like you naturally want to not accept this type of logic. To be honest with you,
Okay.
your beginning thoughts on anything of change. Like I don't know. I mean, maybe it's like if I didn't know you, Ken, I wouldn't have been open to listening. You know what I mean? And basically, everything you're talking about is about kind of listening and logic and conversation and how you're talking to people. But I only opened my ears and was able to accept it. I just think a lot of people have a hard time maybe listening to this, and they're going to be the first ones to say, "Oh no, I don't have problems." I don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. I think I think people. People adjust their maps. I mean, they do. I mean, we consider things differently as we get older. We do that. We revise our childhood maps as we get older. But, when you get, down to it, I think that the ones that tend to remain the biggest roadblocks or the biggest pitfalls or the biggest potholes in as we navigate are ones where I don't know how to say it other than that maybe we're not so proud of them so that we don't want to look at them and we want to look away. Yeah, I don't do that. No, that's not me. Me, someone who doesn't care about people in relationships, I would say you've got me wrong. And I know what I sat at Elise's table after I used to float, and I'd have those thoughts in my head that she's got me all wrong, but yet beads of sweat would be going down my forehead as I
Yeah.
kind of knew that she had me pegged and nailed there, So those particular pitfalls and roadblocks, I'd say for me, and it seems true for a lot of people, for some reason they just don't like hearing them. And I suppose if they were easy and things to change, like they used to put in 2 cups of flour into their recipe of cake, and now they put 2.5 cups, because their grandmother put 2, but now they put 2.5. That's probably an easy thing, but changing something that is more, and it's hard to even find a way to say it other than that, people tend to protect and put up these walls around these flimsy things that they're kind of embarrassed about. I can give you an example of it. Let's see if we can invite some other people. Let's see who's on tonight. Talk to. I'll talk to my friend Chris Olson if he wants, because he's done some of this work for a while, and I've known Chris for a while, and he might be able to help make this point here. Let's see if I can.
Chris is who? The car dealership guy or the
Chris
floating guy?
is Chris. I'll let Chris explain. Let's see if he wants to come and help out here. Chris, you've got your mic on?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. How you doing?
Good.
How things going?
Good. It was snowing here today. That was a little shocking.
Where are you again?
Detroit.
Okay, cool. Snowing in Detroit. It's pretty chilly here too. So I know, Chris, that from a prior conversation or conversations we've been having, you've got this thought that you presented that you want to do something different, like a career change, right?
Yeah.
What are you doing now?
I'm an electrical engineer, and I do automation programming and design work.
Okay. And there's something else that you'd like to do or that you're thinking of doing?
Yeah, I'm pursuing my pilot license, and I want to open a small business down the road, be it a float tank or something else. I'm not quite sure yet.
Okay. Well, it'll be a good way to use these tools to have a float center.
Yeah, for sure.
But I know that you've been talking about how there's a just an indecision about it. Like like the map you use to navigate things looks like it's filled a lot with start but don't finish, so that you end up staying with something even though you talk about wanting to do something different.
Yeah, that's true. That's a pattern I've noticed.
Say it again.
I said, yes, that's true. That's a pattern I've noticed.
Okay. That would be like one of those map things that you use to go about how you do things.
Right. But it's, yeah, I guess it's a map, but it seems that it's also a program because it happens kind of by itself, it just, the pattern repeats itself, and I don't consciously try to make the pattern repeat itself, but nonetheless.
Therein is the nature of programming. As the Lilly quote is, once a program is written, it becomes the rule of your life. So this thing you're talking about is the rule of your life and will be until it's recognized, which I guess, recognized and changed. So the first question becomes, do you recognize it? And what's it about this, indecision of, saying that you want to get a new job, but you keep holding the same ground where you are?
Um, well, yeah, I recognize it, and I recognize, I get very excited about it, and or something, and I'll jump into it. I'll learn a lot about it, and then I'll take it for a ways, and then it just kind of fizzles out, and
How come?
I
Where does the train go off the tracks for you?
I think when it's taken longer than I wanted it to or suspected it to.
Hmm,
Mm,
that doesn't
that doesn't
ring
ring.
true. I mean, maybe it is. It sounds more like there's something uh, that you hold yourself back with, some kind of perception of of what the thing you say that you want means to you, or that you don't you get scared, or you get frightened, or you perceive a threat. No?
Well, that's how I'm starting to see it differently.
Okay, how so?
Well, I was, I guess, using an excuse or blaming my lack of moving forward with certain things on the perception I thought my parents might have about it,
which is
and
which is what that they
um,
want.
that they would disapprove of it, or it would make them worry or something like that.
And why would they disapprove of it?
Well, that's the part I just made up in my head.
Okay. And so how come you don't deal with that in a way of changing the program so that you don't have to go into it with the thought that, boy, there's going to be a disapproval here. I can't do this because my parents won't approve of it. And you and I are about the same age. I mean, you're almost 50, right?
Well, yeah, 48.
Yeah, I'm 56. I'm soundly and pretty, firmly of the opinion that if I'm going to do something, it's going to be thought out on my end about the pros and cons of what I'm going to do, and seek some outside assistance of what I'm going to do. But mom and dad's approval or disapproval, especially if it's just your thought that they won't disapprove, doesn't sound like it's going to be a way that you'll ever get off the couch, so to speak, and get that done. What do you think?
No, that's true, and I think I I need to communicate with them better, and not just assume I know what they think or how they're going to feel about something.
Okay. And okay, so how come you're not doing that, or how come you're not finding out
Well, this
what's on their mind and telling them what's on yours?
well this has just kind of started to crystallize for me. Through these patio chats and talking to you guys.
Okay. Um, I have 4 kids, and 3 of them are out of the house. I don't really particularly care what in particular they do. I want, I of course care that they are healthy and fulfilled in what they do. There's, I'll support them. But more to the point, if I see something that if they come to me with something like they're all older. I mean, they're doing their taxes now even, and they called me variously in the last couple of weeks about asking questions about what you might encounter when you first start to fill out your tax returns. Can I do this? Can I take this as a deduction? Should I maximize my 401k? All sorts of things like that. I stand there to support them in what they do and tell them what I think. So what's the downside with that kind of conversation with your parents?
There isn't, and how you're describing how you feel about your kids. I think my parents feel the same way. Again, I would just need to communicate a little more clear with them, but I'm pretty sure that's the same way they feel, and I've been I don't know.
Yep.
You know.
What if it was about not about that they had a particular thing that they wanted you to do or a concern, but this indecision, this kind of flimmy, I don't know where I stand, I don't know about this. As a parent, that would be really the concern for me. Not so much because, I know going into a task with that assures that you'll never get to the other end with that, because there's always going to be a woe is me, I don't know if I can do this component to it. That as a parent would be my main concern. Not because if you come to me with an idea that you're passionate about, something you want to do, I'm on board. But if you come and like, oh, I don't know, I can't, what's that, poor me about is, how it looks from the outside looking into what you're doing. What do you think?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Okay.
Hey, Ken, I got a question.
Paul?
Hey,
Paul.
It's Paul.
How are you?
Good.
Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. The story, the Office of Shaman, Bob has a problem communicating with his dad, right?
Yep.
And he thought it was because he was scared of his dad.
Yeah.
At least that's the reason he verbalized, right?
Yep.
When the teacher asks him. So in a very similar vein, it sounds like Chris verbalizes an answer, right? But that wasn't what was true for Bob. It was deeper than that, right? What was Bob's issue?
Yeah, I think for Bob, it was that
the mom and dad fought.
Say it again, Ralph.
The mother and dad fought on the day that kid went to go eat the French fries.
Yep,
was his memory.
Yeah, so he thought his dad was always angry or disapproval, but then he did everything he could to facilitate or perpetuate that.
Right.
Like
he would do the things, right? He would do the things that he knew his dad didn't want to hear about.
Right.
So that his dad would be unhappy with him when they talked, so he could maintain the position that I'm scared of my dad.
Yep. So I think the analogy is that for you, Chris, is that you have this complaint about a disapproval that I can't do this because I'll let my parents down. Which, by the way, at 48 years old, dude, that's that's I mean that says plenty in and of itself. But then the other side of that is that you facilitate and perpetuate that because you come in with, if you come in with me to a business plan and you're coming to my law office with something with the approach of, oh, gee, I don't know, I'm not sure if I can, and maybe I can, maybe I can't. We're done from there. We're done. I did work for venture capital for a while and watched some of the best ideas or some really gems of ideas absolutely fall on deaf ears. Because when you got right down to it, the motivation and the desire and the drive of the person to get that shit done was really what people on the outside wanted to see if they were going to support them. And that's true. I mean, it's true of parents in a different sense, but it's very much true. But it's especially true in business. Who cares about your idea? If it's DOA, dead on arrival, because of how you present it, Chris, then no thanks. You're going to then, well, let me give it to you this way. I have a cousin who's in the film business. And he used to, like people in the film business, they make films and then they have to find a place to distribute the films. You raise the financing, but in terms of distribution, you generally are going to go to a movie studio or a Netflix or something and have them help you finance it, and they have the means to distribute it to eyeballs. So he told me a story about how he would go on these pitch meetings, and in the pitch meetings, he'd go by himself. His agent would set up the meetings and say, "It's my cousin Steve. Hey, Steve, I got your pitch meetings before, high fidelity film company." And Steve would go in there, and literally 100 times, Steve said he would pitch these films and these short films and these documentaries and things he was doing. Not interested. They'd say, "Thanks very much. We're not interested." His agent finally took the time to sit him down, maybe after this went on for a year, and said, "I've been hearing back from the film studio. You're coming in there like milk toast, like without any enthusiasm or even drive to make this movie. Kind of matter of fact, yep, I wrote a script. The script is about two guys. The two guys drive in a car. They go across country. Lots of things happen." So my cousin Steve told me at one point he was like, "Fuck it, let me try a different approach." And he'd go in there and he'd be like, "Look, here's what I got. This is the movie about this, that." I mean, with the kind of enthusiasm that people knew that he was behind it. And sure enough, he got a different result. But that's a programmatic change, that's going a different route. That's changing your map, Chris. That's utilizing, let's call it the tool of programming, to change the landscape, to navigate, the way that you go about things.
Sure.
Okay.
The one, I guess the hiccup or something is, sometimes I see people doing that, and I see them doing it, but I can tell it's not real. They're like putting on that act, but it's not real somehow.
Okay, but a couple things is that really what you're saying is that why put on an act? And I agree that your programming is going to be consistent with the way that you think about things, but why not deal with the issue of where you perceive some kind of threat in talking to your parents or talking to people so that they can actually hear what the hell you think about and what you want to do in life.
Wait. You mean to say right now you're not putting on an act, Chris?
Hey, John.
Hey, Ken.
So,
I guess I haven't really looked at it that way.
Well, of course you don't want to look at it that way. What the fuck? Why do you want to look at it that way? That would defeat your whole purpose, wouldn't it?
yeah, that's true. Yep. I got my second hold.
Yeah.
Okay, dude, here's the thing. Everybody walks around with their mask on. Okay, I mean, I don't care. I'm not bummed about that or anything. I don't think that there's anything untoward about it. People do that. Oh, okay, I don't care. That's cool. Well, it's goofy, but if whatever melts your butter, if that's what you get off on, well, then go for it, I guess. But yeah, that's really what goes on with people, and
Yep.
so what makes you so holy that what, you don't wear a mask? Ha 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 ha. I've been talking to you for a long time, Bubba. You wear a mask all the time.
You, Chris?
Yeah.
But, sounds like you went away there. Scott, right, wrong, you agree, you disagree, you're
No, I agree. I'm looking at it.
okay. All right, well, while you're thinking about that, maybe my friend Pat Jones will talk to me. You around, Pat?
Yeah, I'm here.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. How's work going?
That's a great question, Ken. And I'm glad you asked it, because I'm sitting here listening to Chris's story and couldn't help but relate to it. I had this little, I don't know if it was an epiphany or what it was. I don't know how many years ago when I left my first business partnership. But I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to do what I was doing. So I decided, I'm going to go out on my own, run my own business. Then my wife and I decided, we're going to have a business together. And I said, well, all right, sure, why not? Just kind of floating along. But it wasn't really what I wanted to do, Ken. And I started doing all these business things and these business groups and talking about what my goals and aspirations were. And, I said my goal was to work to be able to do architecture across the country. And
Okay, can I ask you a question though about a stopping point before this? If I heard that right, you left like a more corporate-y kind of job and then went into business with your wife.
Well, no, it wasn't a corporate kind of job. It was just, corporate. It was a business partner, my former business partner in architecture.
Okay, you left that to go into business with your wife, which you said that you didn't really want to do?
Yeah, no, it wasn't really what I wanted to do. You know what? I thought I thought it was the right thing to do because I thought it would make other people happy.
Oh boy.
So I wasn't doing it for myself. I thought I was doing, in my head, I was doing it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was doing it for someone else, I thought.
Good luck with that. Yeah.
And yeah, that didn't work out very well.
Well, did you make her happy?
Yes and no.
Yeah. Come on now.
Through my misery, it didn't. I don't think either one of us were happy towards the end.
Yeah, I don't think I can't make anyone happy. I can't.
No.
Best you can do is, this is what I want to do. This is my plan, to see if it matches up with their plan. But to make my plan their plan, that's been a pitfall-ridden path for me every single time I tried that. I mean, I went about this whole float business in that way. Let me make other people happy, until I started to hear the people on the outside screaming, "What the fuck do you want? How come you never say what you want to do? How are we ever going to do business with you if you don't actually stand up and say what you want to do so we can find a place where we can do it with you? And by the way, you said you wanted to make me happy? I'm not happy, Kaplan." Oh, shit. Really?
Yeah, funny how that happens, huh?
Yeah.
But
All right. So
much I guess similar to Chris, I was trying to make someone else happy, and I was miserable. But until I finally sat down and said, well, no, this is what I want to do. I want to work, or I want to own, or I want to work in a firm that works across the country. It's a national firm.
yeah.
I put those goals down, and what happens? An old friend comes into my life,
Yeah.
and within a week of seeing him again, I had a job offer at a firm where I can work across the country. And now here I am managing offices in Boston, Tampa, Florida, in the Carolinas, Pennsylvania, California. I'm working with all these really great people across the country, and it's very fulfilling.
Yeah.
So once I got those thoughts out of my head, I'm not doing this for someone else. I'm doing this. I got to do this for me. I got to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Get all that baggage out of the way and go and do it.
What was the process for you about going back and kind of rewriting the, thought that you had used to go at things about trying to please people? I remember one time a couple of years ago, you had told me like a very common saying. I had heard it from a lot of people. I didn't really stop to think about it until after you had said it, but it was something like happy wife, happy life, right? People say that. But then, it occurred to me, and it sounds like it occurred to you too. It sounds like that's probably not the best way to go about things in terms of relationships with your significant other. Because it's like it's got this built-in dishonesty to it. I'm gonna make you happy as if I can even do that. Really?
Yeah. I mean, head right on the nail, Ken. I mean, you can't make other people happy. You said it. But what I've been finding is, since I've been doing all this work with you and with John and working with my programming, I'm a hell of a lot happier.
Yeah.
And because I'm a lot happier, I'm seeing changes, or I think I'm perceiving changes in the people around me.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a slide up now. Let me just reduce this so I can see it myself. Programming teaches a shaman the limits of his influence. Yeah. Well, limits of like making someone else happy. I don't have that. You don't. Nobody does. You can't do that. Whether or not somebody is happy, fulfilled, energized, whatever, is going to be completely within their own control. Those limits may be wider in some ways than one would think. And in other ways, they may be less than one would think because we limit ourselves through our programming. And sometimes we act as though we are more than we actually are because of our programming.
And do you want to take this statement here? Rhodey says, I feel like it takes learning about yourself to know what it really is you want in any given situation. Knowing what it is fulfilling for you, etc.
So Rhodey's comment is that he thinks it takes knowing about yourself to know what you want. That it,
and what,
Jenny, I haven't.
Yeah, there was no question really, but
just a comment. Well,
yeah.
Dealing with programming is a way to figure out what the hell you're really going after. And for me, I got into the float business. I don't even, this is, like when I think about the ridiculous things that I did, because, I grew up too wanting to please people pleaser. You know, I grew up in a broken family. I saw a lot of shit go down at a really young age. The way that I think about it is that I navigated the world in a map where I tried to keep the peace. And I used to always think about myself as being able to read people. You know, I know people say that, they have the skill to read people. And it's true that I did to a certain extent, but what I missed too was that I had put that whole structure in place because of the tumult, the shit that I saw go down when I was a kid, my parents getting divorced and being young and it being violent, and my dad being out of the house and in the house and screaming at each other. So I think what had happened is that I navigated through life like, I'm going to keep the peace. I'm going to be a peacemaker. Well, the problem with that for me was that the other side of that, which I didn't want to look at, even though it was there, it was that, where's the trustworthiness there? You know, if I'm your peacekeeper and you just want to know what the fuck's on my mind or what I want to do, and all I'm doing is kind of trying to figure out, reading what I need to say to try to please someone, Chris, Pat, it's not trustworthy, and it wasn't.
Well, Ken, I'm reminded of how many times and for how many years John told you to not open a float center.
Yeah.
He said, dude, do not do this. You're doing it for the wrong reasons. You don't know why you're doing it, right? I mean, how many times?
Yeah.
And you did it anyway, didn't you?
Yeah, so there.
However,
mm-hmm.
I don't think I think somewhere along the line, you stopped trying to do it to please somebody.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true. Yep, that's true. I had to find, like, what is it that I really want? And why am I not telling people what I really want? What's the big threat there? Really?
Yeah.
It was very deceiving and untrustworthy when I got down to it, that I was hiding what I really wanted to say to people, as if it was some big threat that someone would hear from me what I actually wanted. Once I started to do that with my partners, my law partners, they had been asking me that question all along, except they didn't hear it that way. I heard it more like, why are they even asking me this, So, I mean, I'd never give them a straight up answer, nor did I anybody else. So that proved not to work.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think your story is a really good opportunity for these guys to, map it to themselves a little bit.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I think, Paul, if we could, like, if we go back and we go back to like a couple of episodes, the last 2 episodes, we're souls, or however that you want to think about that, something other than that body expressing energetically through us. Well, guess what? If it's going to express, it's going to take a pathway to express. In other words, a map, let's call it that, or navigating the territory of your thoughts, if you want to call it that, or even more accurately, through your programs. Those are all saying the same things. That's the best path you got until you decide to take another path. So I think for me, it was really a matter of like finding what, like, at a, like, what is it that I really want, and how do I energize this thing with what I want? Well, the first thing I had to do was find a better map to get through things. And if I had this energy, of which I do, bearing down on me to do something in my life, which I hear Chris saying that, I think Pat said that too, and I suppose it's true for everybody, then how is it expressing through me if I keep taking these twists and turns down these roads where I'm shooting myself in the foot by not telling people what I want? It's really a failure of energy management.
Absolutely, right? Because the soul or the other is is pushing this through you,
Yeah.
and your programming is twisting it all up, making it go sideways, not being honest,
Yep.
not knowing yourself, right? Not realizing you're trying to please people. That just
Yeah.
makes it all go sideways.
Yeah.
But you stuck it out. You still pushed on it. Chris is still here, right?
Yeah.
Years later, Patrick is trying to sort this out and noticing differences,
Yeah.
right? Even though it doesn't happen quickly, sometimes it still happens.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
It's not sometimes, it happens. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
But, you can live life that way, or you can live life another way and then die that way if you want. For me personally, I rather enjoy living the life.
Yeah. Me too. I have the difference of experience to compare old programming and new programming, or revising programming, and what that means to getting on with things and enjoying how I go about things and people. I mean, you can go back to like Ralph's story. That's kind of like me. In a lot of senses. If I'm passing by everybody on the checkout line, motherfuckers, and why are they doing this, or why are they in my path? That was a way. I could have done that my whole life. Or there's another way of like, what is this person? How do I make their life more enjoyable? How do I find a place to, support whatever it is that they want to do? I found that to be a damn easier, more fulfilling way to go about things than fight people. But maybe that's just me. What else? Questions? You with Ralph?
So Ralph, did that answer your question?
My question? Did I have a question?
Yeah. Did it answer? Did we answer your question that you had earlier?
I don't even remember asking the question. What was it? Because I have another question as we talk.
Go ahead. Let's go then. Let's do
that one.
Load up another one. How you doing, Vanessa?
Good.
So like either two of these guys, like whatever they're feeling, are they able to trace it back to like that where they originally wrote the program in order to kind of rewrite?
Yep. Oh yeah, for sure. That's there's a lot of different programming forms. There's like mantras, I'm okay, relax, and words and self-programming, and there's neuro-linguistic programming. There's a lot of different programming types. The goal means program, which is in the Office of Shaman, and which we do in our intro class and our rewrite, is really potent because you're going to go back and you're going to trace it back to that point of origin. That's the starting point. That's that's like where it resides. If I'm going to redo a pathway, so I got a better road to navigate, I'm going to want to make sure that pathway doesn't get traversed the next time I go about things. So I'm going to want to go back, and you can think about it in terms of going back to that memory, that point of origin. If you look at the picture that's up now, we've got this upside down pyramid. Well, at the bottom level with that one square, you've got that program that you wrote in early childhood that then gets repeated throughout your biocomputer, your own biocomputer, and it's operating throughout the whole system. So, well, you can self-talk it maybe, or kind of logically try to get through it, but in order to get down and change it from its point of origin, you got to deal with it from its point of origin. Makes a lot of sense, which I think makes the goal means program a form of programming that's potent, particularly potent, because you get back to ground zero, or the source or the origin of the thought. It's not to say that other programming tools aren't helpful. They are. Shamans and people would do well to collect as many kinds of programming mechanisms and modalities as they can.
Ralph, you could also ask Patrick and Chris, they both have done rewrites, or Patrick's in the middle of his rewrite.
Yeah, I'm curious to know how they connected it to their lives. You know what I mean, and how they're working through it.
We'll ask them. Yeah, let's see if they come on. Patrick, Chris.
Well, I think for me, the origin was when I was little, and my parents got in a big fight, and I thought I caused that fight, or I was responsible for that fight, and I think that's where I started wanting to try to please them so that they wouldn't get into a fight again like that.
So if you change your career, you think they're going to get into a fight? That's the feeling you get?
I think maybe I've been operating from there. I mean, maybe that's kind of where that belief came from, and that's what I'm changing now, or working on changing.
But Chris, how does that fit in with you disappointing them? I'm getting lost.
Yeah, because I want to comment because all right, in my head, I'm thinking, let's say your parents paid for your college and gave you your clothes on your back and fed you. At some point, there's an origin that you must be feeling. Again, I'm just guessing that your parents, they're the ones supplying you with life as you know it. And if you don't get their approval, you're feeling funny. That's why still at 48, maybe you're feeling funny about changing a career because, you know what I mean? Like, you know that there's a responsibility connected to whatever you're doing. And you're associating, my parents, either that or it's an excuse.
Well, the disappointment part, I think, comes from, I know my dad, he was a blue collar worker, and it was a dream of his to be an engineer. And, I came up and I think I chose engineering on my own accord, but it might have been, to please him in some way. And I mean, that doesn't come from, 3 or 4 years old, but
why not?
And I feel the same. I come from blue collar family, so there's a sense of responsibility towards, you became an engineer and you want to fulfill it, but there's also probably a way of your dad's map of living life has just like my dad gave me a map of living life, gave you a map. So if you're feeling hesitant about changing careers, it's probably because your map is telling you that there's something not right with the way you're doing it. Like, let's say the scenario was you were able to do it simultaneously, be an electrical engineer and open up another business. Once you were to make enough business with, money with your other business, you'd probably feel comfortable leaving your electrical engineer job. Hence, maybe your parents are more comfortable with something like that. It's just getting to, getting to that journey, making that plan. No?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So in some way, I feel like there's got to be a memory for you. Because I was telling these guys, that when my memory, again, I'm just playing with this a little bit. I'm a beginner. But there is a certain feeling I got when a guy gave me notice at work. And only I know that. And the weird thing is when I think about this memory, and I'm telling you, I was so small with my mom. I feel like it's where this feeling generated from. So in that point to kind of, talk myself out of that, it's easy to kind of accept it. And I don't know, just on that small level, on that one little program, I think I alleviated some stress in my life. There's got to be something that you're either, again, it's tough to tell. It's tough to tell openly to people. But there's something you're connecting that I think that either you need a float to think about or, you got to be more open with it.
Yeah. or put your big boy pants on. Chris?
Yeah, it starts with recognizing it, for sure, and that's the first step. And I've recognized that now, and yeah, I can see what you guys are saying, and my map's kind of falling apart, which is a good thing.
Well, you don't have to, collapse the whole map. There's a road that you traversed, Chris, and you've traversed since you were, really little toddler kind of type. I think Ralph's offering you a way to see that certain decisions or perceptions that you have about what you think your parents want may not line up with what actually is going on. They don't say, it doesn't sound like that to me, but that's for you to find out. I'd say if you're going to do something different, then at 48 years old, it would probably be a good thing to take a look at.
Yeah, and what Ralph said about getting the map from your parents or from your dad. That I think there's a lot of truth to that, because that was a map that worked for him.
Sure, yeah.
And of course, that's the map he's gonna share because it worked, but it's not the same map that works for me.
And that's true, but you've lived his map, so like that map puts food on the table. Whereas, you know what I'm saying? Like if you start making a different kind of map, it's always an experiment.
Yeah, I agree with that. What Ralph said is sometimes it's not like, all right, map in the garbage. It's you've wrote a huge amount of programs that allow you to get on, and most of them work just fine. What we're talking about here in program is having a tool to go back and say that one over there that I started over there because I had this memory of something about my parents, which you said, Chris, having a fight. Let me change that one. You'd be free to change it into something else simply by taking the decision you made or your interpretation or the color or how about this, the charge that you put on it, and change it to something else, some other more mature way. That's how programming gets done. You with?
Yeah.
All right. Well, get it done then, Chris. Come on.
Yeah.
There's stuff here that you probably, it sounds like, want to do, but you're holding yourself back from doing it. Okay?
Yeah. Yep.
Roddy asks, would you say that parents push insecurity on us? No, I don't think, I wouldn't ever say it like that my parents push, be insecure. I say, like I told my grandma and my dad growing up story, my grandmother grew up in the very kind of lean times, and they had soup every night. So she was really cautious, and my dad was an only child. And so, she was really cautious about him, but she didn't push insecurity. You can't, I don't think you can push insecurity on it. I don't think any parent wants to do that. Let me make my kid insecure. If they're insecure, it's because they
How old are you, Roddy?
Go ahead, John.
How old are you, Roddy?
Well, we're going to have to take Roddy off of, let me see here.
Just how old is he?
I don't know. Let's
I think he's 20s. Early 20s.
Yeah, that's what I think. His parents might have pushed insecurity.
We've got another question here too. Would you say that thing.
Would you say that the power of thinking from the soul, freeing one up to make the types of changes you were talking about with Chris?
No. No, it goes the other way.
Say more, John, please. It goes the other way.
Yeah, it goes, yeah, it goes, you have to turn it around. You have to do things so that the soul can express. The soul doesn't express because so that you do things. It's the other way around. And that's a mistake everybody makes. And it's a wonderful thing because otherwise we'd be able to use the soul for just the stupidest things. And fortunately we can't because it doesn't work that way. What can I tell you?
Okay. So I think what we're getting at, or what you're getting at, is like the tool of programming frees up energy.
Yeah, yeah. That's really probably the best way to say it that I've ever come across. There might be other ways better. I don't really know the way to.
Yeah.
But it seems to me to be something along these lines that this you've got an energy that gets released somehow or the other, and how that is. Yeah, I'm not sure that I understand how it is exactly. I understand that it is. I guess that counts for something, yeah. But in reality, how it is and so forth, no, I don't know how that works. But I can tell you that if you allow it, that it can be useful for you. But only if you allow it. If you don't, well then of course you're not going to get any benefit out of not doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense to me, because that emphasizes the directional comment that you had made. If I'm going to use it, I'm going to clean up.
Yeah, and it's like
programming.
Okay, so it's like, just take the idea of programming itself. Programming is one of like, let's say 8 tools, okay? And it's like, if you use the tool of programming, everybody gets, oh, I'm going to program myself. I will be the soul, and I got the self-made programmer. This is over there, and that's over here, and I got it all laid out. But I can't do any of it. And that's always true, that they can't. And the reason they can't is because they don't understand that programming is simply a tool. And then you say, okay, then the second tool is moving the assemblage point. They say, oh no, I can't do that. I'm who I am. And the third tool is communication. And each one of the tools that we're going to talk about, or that you're going to talk about actually, releases some energy that's governed by this entity, or this other than in the computer entity that seems to be outside of the platform of the computer itself, outside the operating system. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, and I don't really care. It's just an easy visualization. Or
it fits in with what, like, Pat Jones said about making an adjustment in his programming, and the energetic kind of change to describe it as best as he can.
Yeah, you just, and really, I mean, you just, if you straighten up your programming and you become at one with yourself, more or less, you're obviously going to have more energy, because you're not using energy that's contradicting itself, as it were.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense to me. That comports with my experience of where frustration comes from. As always, dealing with that has a very perceptible, energetic thing, as best as I can say it.
Now, but here's the thing, though, with that statement, Terry, is that it's backwards, really. The body is the instrument through which the soul expresses. That's true, but everybody just takes it to there. They don't understand the body has to get aligned with the soul for that to happen. They don't think, they think that the body just is going to be in control of everything. I mean,
Yeah, no, I get that point.
Terry should fess up and tell everybody that the reason why this is up there is because that's how she thinks about it all the time. It's okay.
All right. Shall we? Thought we can go into fess up mode here and conclude with that, or good. We can invite Terry. You want to fess up now? What do you? Or should we call it a night and come back tomorrow? All right. Well, giving that silence there. How about how? Oh, here comes Terry. So, all right. So we'll finish on this point. Terry, are you there?
I am here.
How are you doing?
I'm okay.
All right.
So yeah, on this point, I mean, what John's referring to is that I kept trying to think that I could somehow control how the soul expressed, and I kept looking for that, realizing, instead of looking at, this energy is already there, so what can I do within my body or my own programming to make adjustments so it express? And the more I try to say, okay, I can control energy, I was getting it all backwards, so it would just get all twisted around. I was not seeing how things actually work. So I guess where I had to sort of stop taking a look is, well, what are the things that I can actually change? And I can change where there's resistance. So for me, it would come out where I would stutter, or I'd get really nervous about stuff, or I'd get really frenzied, or I would try to take control over topics. And so all of these were ways of not really expressing, just letting energy come through me. It was blocking up energy.
Okay. Yeah. I think your point is that you through the body were going to control what you did, and you ended up in what looks like to the outside, Terry, just a full on, nearly 24/7, 365 frenzy.
Yeah, that's what it would be. And it was a way, hearing Chris talk, I was thinking, yep, that was what I thought my mask was. It's like, boy, if I'm totally in control of stuff, that's my mask. I'm in charge. I can take care of it. And it was just making me and a lot of people around me kind of crazy because, well, first of all, it was a lie. I wasn't actually in charge of that. And all of that was avoiding, usually avoiding things. And for me, a lot of it was just avoiding being honest with people. And so what I had to do within rewrites is look at places, well, not just places, that one of those spots in those cubes where I thought I had to pretend all the time. And so the more I could go back and see where that started, or where I thought I could be in control of things at a really early age, working on that and rewriting that piece, then I experienced more energy. And it wasn't the energy of hiding and controlling, it was a different kind of energy that was already there. It wasn't like I was taking the energy and forcing it through this little program, because the energy's there. Yeah. I was just putting it through this really sets of stuff that I was doing as a little kid. Yeah. And I thought, well, this is how I can make my way in the world, and this is how I can make everything okay. And it just came out in very screwy ways, and for some people it comes out as fear or anger, and for me it was that kind of prickly frenzy energy. Yeah. So. Okay. Well. But yeah, so the learning about what I could actually change, and then what I had to do was make room in me of where to remove where I was blocking things and where I was distorting things. And I think that's what we've been hearing about, Ken and not Ken, Chris and Pat, and Ralph's starting to think about that now too. Yeah. All right. Well, how about we pick up then tomorrow? What do we have in store for tomorrow's episode? We're going to continue a little bit more with programming, look at the Bob story and what's covered in that. So if folks haven't listened to it, they can go on to SoundCloud and hear Elise reading the next Bob story. And how do people find the SoundCloud
story excerpts that we've been recording? Is that from the Patio Chats Facebook, or what do they?
Well, you can just search, go to SoundCloud, to the SoundCloud website, and search on Office of Shaman, and you'll find it. So the Office of Shaman.
Great. Cool. Well, thanks, everybody, participants, guests, those that, everybody. Just thank you all. We appreciate it. We'll see you all tomorrow at 8 p.m.
Thanks.
Sound good?
Good night, guys.
Night. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Have a good night.